Now, this idea of fulfillment and spending your money on the things that are most important to you links into the next part that they talk about in the book, which is the question that is important for me that I'm working on, is to be fulfilled, you need to decide what enough is in your life, in each of your categories of spending. So you need to know, when I spend all this money, at what point do I have enough? At what point do I feel done? And if you don't know you're enough, it's super easy to go from not enough, pass enough, and go to too much. And that too much is when all of a sudden we find that we don't have enough money for the other things that are important, or we end up with lots of stuff in our house building up. We end up regretting purchases. So we really need to get clear on that middle ground, that enough in our lives and the enough in what we're spending our money on. And they say in the book, which is very interesting, is that your desires disappear when you have enough. And I really had to think about this, because I think there's parts of my life where I think I have enough, but I'm not so sure that that desire is gone. And so maybe that means I don't have enough. Or maybe that means I'm not clear enough on my enough to know when I have enough in that area. And so I'm overspending and I'm going beyond that, and my desire isn't being fulfilled because now I just want more, 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 more. And if I can get clear on my enough in each of my categories, then that desire is going to stop. The best example I can think is every spring break, my family and I go to Moab mountain biking. And by the end of that trip, when we come back to go to work and go to school and run my business, we really don't desire anything else at that point. That vacation gives us enough. And so that feeling of not desiring more, not feeling like you don't, that scarcity feeling, but having enough is the feeling that we're after. And so then, kind of linking to the book with some of my own thoughts, spending outside of your core values, not matching your money to your goals and your dreams that you've identified, is going to make it tough to get to that enough. And so, for example, again with my family, vacations are really important to us. Having those adventures together, it's one of our core values. And so if we spend a bunch of money on clothes or stuff and end up not having enough money to go on an adventure, we definitely don't feel like we have enough in our life at that point, and will continue to spend. So we know that we need to focus our money on having those adventures. And so by basing your budget on your values, you're guiding your money so that you know that it's going to the areas where you need to have that money spent. So in the book, they talk about creating a tracking chart, and every month tracking your money, and doing that over long periods of time, years, so that you can see the trends in your spending, figure out when you have enough, when you don't have enough. I think that's great. It's not something I did when I originally read this book, because it seemed like a lot to track and handle. And so with the Secure Entrepreneur and with my business and personal finances, what I do is I create those categories and I project my budget out for an entire year. And then by tracking it on that budget sheet every month, I can see when we've met our numbers, which means we had enough. And I can say, okay, we met our numbers. Did we feel like we have enough? Did we feel like we had too little? Do we feel like we spent too much? And then over time, we adjust that budget over the year to get to those numbers. So a similar kind of concept. I just like to have all the numbers ready at the start and track them. In the book, they suggest tracking those numbers fresh every month. So just a difference in approach there. I think either is a valuable way to do it, because we need to be paying attention and be conscious of our spending so that we can start getting to that enough point and not overspending and not underspending, because both of those lead to some pretty tough emotions. So that's it for this video. We'll be back in the next video to continue discussing chapter 4.